how is the army so flexible when the need arises? You know, outside of the army, we hear stories of valor, bravery, adaptability, but also, many of us have this perception that the army is also very bureaucratic and has very strong command and controls in place. But I'm really intrigued about the performance that happens when there is a crisis. And it seems very, very inspiring. So how does that happen?
It's like a structure, which is one structure, but somewhere down the middle, they start performing differently. So like Sujata said, at the front end, at the pointed end of the spear, as it were, it is probably amongst the most flexible, agile, adaptable, lithe organizations that exist. And the front end of the armed forces or the army is really the component that fights. Now, at the fighting end, history has taught us that the most effective component is a small team. Now, there are many definitions of a small team, but that is in many words the pointed end of the army's spear. At that end, you will struggle to find in any other organization in the world something that is as light, agile, flexible and adaptable. Now, as it grows in size and comes down to the highest headquarters or the corporate office, if you were, is when the size of the organization is directly proportional to its rigidity. So the higher the level at which a decision is made, the more rigid and bureaucratic it becomes. Now, this is also the nature of the human mind. What I've said is not so much typical only of the armed forces. It is true of any large company that is governed. The front-end salesman of, let's say, Coke, has to employ all the dexterity as his or her command to be able to sell that bottle of Coke to that poor lady who's got a store at the top of the mountain, who cannot pay him today. But when you probably drift upwards down to maybe their headquarters in Atlanta or wherever it is, he would feel that my organization is very bureaucratic. So that's the nature of the beast, but it's quite typical of the armed forces. And the reasons are not far to fathom. At the pointed end, there is no encumbrance of process. The decision-making loop is what is between the ears. So it is just 4 people doing what they can do with the resources they have on their back, and that's the end of the story. There is no consultation, there is no requirement of guidance, nobody is there to give them guidance. There is no advice required. So that team has got a task, it's got a resource assigned, it's got a deliverable which is expected to produce within a set of rules.